Alright, so see if this works. It looks like it's going to. I have the video stuck in my sports bra, my phone, so it's not too difficult, and it just takes a little practice. So I basically just start by brushing it kind of straight up, and then I'll just choose a length, and I always start longer and then end up going shorter, but it's like 3 to 4 inches ish, and I just cut. All right, and then we see the mohawk, and it's not going to be perfectly level at first. You kind of have to go back and sculpt it, so you don't have to worry too much about this first cut. And you also kind of have to, and you'll get, like, this hair right here tends to grow more straight up, whereas this hair up here tends to fall forward more. So to make it all look even, you kind of have to, and I have this little step stool down here that I'm standing on. I'm doing it outside, just easier to see. But yeah, and I don't cut all the way across. I kind of go from both sides, and both sides kind of grow a little bit different too. All right, so I'll pause here. All right, so this part where it kind of starts to flip over to the other side, that's mainly because it's so long, but, and it's also a lot thinner right here. This part I do kind of start to do all together, both sides, just so I have a reference, like a starting length on the other side. And again, it doesn't start off perfect, but so right here is where I kind of have both sides for at least one spot. And that definitely still needs to get shorter, but we'll start there. Alright, so this is what we have on this side. It's kind of, the lighting is terrible, but as you can see, it still looks like a hot mess, but I have trimmed up at least all the way up on this side down to about like right here. Just picked a length and went for it. Alright, on this side you'll be able to see a little bit better. You can see here's my one spot that I have cut all the way through. So that's where we're starting on this side, and now I just kind of start from here. Alright, so I'm just starting from here. And just cutting, starting to work my way back. And just go straight up. And work my way all the way down. This part that flops forward is always the trickiest part, because you feel like you always go too short because it falls forward, and then you kind of have to match the rest to this part up here. But I'll show you that in a second when I get there. All right, another thing is that your lengths on each side are not necessarily going to match, especially at first. This hair on this side tends to grow more that way, so when you brush it straight up, by the time it falls back over, I don't know if you can kind of see, but it's a little shorter on this side, but that's okay. So I just continue to brush straight up and kind of match to cut. All right, so it's like we're getting to the little bit tricky part where it's all growing forward. So sometimes I tend to leave it, like, I kind of angle it so it's getting a little bit longer going towards his ears. Even though this is all probably going to get shorter eventually. But I don't know if you can see, hopefully. Sometimes I'll have to brush it up from this side. See how we always... Because if you see... I generally leave this part here for like the end because it's not nearly as thick and as much easier to deal with, and I'm not exactly sure how short we're gonna end up going here. This little transition here can be a little bit awkward to deal with, but we'll get there. But you can kind of see that it's starting to look a little bit more like a mohawk. You're definitely gonna have to shorten this up through here. I tend to not let it get so long. It's easier to do when it hasn't been that long. When it gets that long as it is, like all winter, this is what it looks like from this side. If you can see some of the glare of the sun, and it's obviously all sorts of choppy all over the top, but we're gonna go back and clean that up. But if you let it, once it gets as long as it did, like the weight of the hair kind of impacts the standing up. So this will probably eventually stand up a little bit more, more time it's shorter. So, and in general, it's just easier. Like once I get this short, there'll almost be like a line here that you can see through the summer. The insides tend to grow a lot faster. And then there's like this line almost you can use as your guide. For some reason, the little short hairs on the outside that are bleached tend to not grow, and they make a nice little guide a lot of the times in the summer. So yes, that's our rough starting point. And then I will show you how I clean it up. I'm using the side trailer, hoping that the sun will be a little better. But as you can see, like this side closest to me is a lot, maybe you can see it, is quite a bit longer than on the other side. So I kind of start somewhere in here where it flops forward and slowly start to even it up a little bit, but it doesn't always end up completely even. Sometimes it just ends up longer on one side than the other, but we'll start there. Okay, so I kind of pick a spot if I have a spot that I like the length, like especially up here, because this is the part that's the hardest because it flops so far forward. I tried to move on the other side of the trailer so you could actually see, but of course there's the sun right there. But this spot right here is like as short as I'm gonna go, kind of. That's just how it worked out. It wasn't intentional, but so I'm gonna try and cut everything else to match this little level area right there, or at least that's what I think I'm gonna do. All right, so there, I brush straight up, and then I see I just kind of start to so this is my area that I'm matching to. And again, I'm not going all the way across yet, but I kind of will go most of the way over and just maybe leave just a tiny bit on the other side to catch up. So now I'm kind of cutting to this line here. You can see. And then you kind of have to just see how it's falling. The wind is not helping me. I've got this, and as you can see, it kind of like dips down. It's a little longer right there, so then I just go through. It's like you really have to see it from down here. Once I get to this point, a lot of times I'll just kind of like hold the brush up. Just kind of like press it so it gets a good line instead of brushing it all together, because when you can't really see how it's falling, but when you just kind of let it lay there naturally, a lot of times I'll have to like change the angle so I can see. I know, buddy. The hardest part is getting like a good section as your reference point and getting it how you like. All right. Oh God, of course the sun is moving again, but you can see I kind of have, especially from, oh, that's a weird looking angle. It is mostly even from here. And then the sun is not cooperating, but then you can kind of see it's straight, and then it starts to get longer. So now I just go and use that as a guide to kind of shorten up the rest of it. Still got to shorten up, like this sticks up weird. I'll go back and fix that. All right, for the most part, I am liking the side right here. And again, you can nitpick it all day long, but now I'll go to the other side and kind of go from there. Sometimes I'll just kind of like look and see if there's any little areas I want to clean up. All right. So now I go on this other side. And I've already cleaned this up a little bit, but the video wasn't running. And I just kind of try and make it look pretty even from this side. I wish you could see the top. It's not necessarily flat on the top, but it gets pretty close. But then I'm stepping back down to look and see how it's looking. Like this could get pretty short if I'm not careful. So I kind of start to angle up. Step back down. Blowing right in my face. I usually from this side cut over further because it's easier to cut in this direction. This kind of grows in all different directions right here.